specification. Instead, at the industry, when you get into the industry and you found the switch to manage, then those indications are useful for you to use in practice, right? Other than that, no need to remember this for the examination purpose. මේවා තියනවා කියලා දැනගෙන ඉන්න එක තමයි වෙන්න ඕනේ. I think we stop at this point. Right. Verifying ports LEDs during switch post. Post mean post stand for that's right, power on self test. So during the power on time, the self test operation is happening. So depending on the different stages, LEDs will be either switch on or switch off. So it depends, right? So here we are going to have some understand about different indication of the right. Once the power cable is connected, the switch initiated the series of tests called power on self test. You are aware about that situation. It is similar to the computer is starting up. There are 6 different stages, right? Can you remember that? Stages ටික මතකද? කොහෙන්ද එක පටන් ගන්න? ROM එකේ තියෙන bootstrap program එකෙන්. ඒකෙන් operation system එක flash drive එකෙන් load කරගෙන operating system එකෙන් තමයි bootstrap program එක operating system එකට බාර දෙන ඉතුරු වැඩ ටික කරන් යන්නේ. ඔය step ටික තමයි තියෙන්නේ. Right? If you cannot remember, please refer that and understand what are those steps, because in general that is in the exam. I'm not sure whether it will be appear in this time, but you should have exact understand how it is happening with the power on self test. Yeah, with the switch startup process, we will go back and show you at first actually switch startup steps. First, power on self test, then load the iOS bootstrap program from the ROM, then find out the location for the iOS, then load it from the flash, then flash to the NVRAM. Now required resources are there in the NVRAM. Then those things will be loaded into the RAM. So startup configuration file will be loaded from the NVRAM. Then now operating system is also there in the NVRAM. Startup program also there in the NVRAM. Sorry, I confused. So yeah, iOS operating system is loaded from the flash. Then actually once it is loaded, it will be loaded into the RAM, right? Then startup configuration file will be loaded from the NVRAM. That thing also will be appear in the RAM. Then once operating system and the startup configuration file is appears as running configuration file in the RAM, both things are essential element to start up the switch, right? So it is important. So we are actually here in the power on self test stage. What are the different LEDs during that time? First, run automatically to verify that switch functions correctly. It assures that switch functions correctly. Switch එක හරියට වැඩ කරනවාද කියලා assure වෙලා තියෙනවා. The system LED indicates the success or failure of the post. Post එක success වුණාද, power on self test එක success වුණාද නැද්ද කියලා we can realize depending on the indicators in the switch. Switch එක indicators අනුව තමයි අපි හිතාගෙන යන්නේ. Now it is start and running properly. It is one side. The other side, switch is not started properly. There is an issue with that, right? Such understand can be achieved through the LED indicators. If the system LED is off, මේ ටික නේද අපිට කරන්න තියෙන්නේ. මේ ටික අපි කරේ නෑනේ. කවුද හිටියේ තරින්ද? මට නිකන් කරා වගේ මතක. නෑ very මෙතනනේ අපි නෝට් එක දාගෙන හිටියේනේ.
ඔව් සර් ඔතන ඉඳන් කරන්න තියෙන්නේ.
මෙතන ඉඳන් කරන්න තියෙන්නේ නේ. හරි. හරි. Then we will continue because කොහොම හරි එක වගේ හින්දා just realize that whether I taught or not. If the system LED is off, may different දේවල් highlight කරන්න off, but the switch is plugged in, then post is running. System LED is off now, switch එක plugged in කළා නම් then post is running. That means there should be some indicator after post is finished. ඒකනේ අදහස්. LED එක පත්තු වෙනවා කියන්නේ මොන කලර් එකකින් හරි මොන ඉන්ඩිකේෂන් එකකින් හරි පත්තු වෙලා තියෙන්න ඕනේ. පවර් ගහලා නම් system LED should be switched on at the end of the post. If the system LED is green, then the positive side, post was successful. Right? If the system LED is green, then post is successful. If the system LED is amber, then post failed. Post failure considers to be fatal error. Reliable operations of switch should not be expected if post fail. Reliable, that means reliable operation we cannot expect. We cannot expect reliable operation if the amber appear. That means post fail, there is some critical error, fatal error, right? Those are the three stages anyway. Let's move forward. The port status LEDs also change during the switch pause. Port status LED, previous one, system LED. This is the system LED. Can you remember where system LED is? Yeah, this one is the system LED. Port status LEDs are these. Port status LEDs. This is the system LEDs, right? Okay, so I have to move forward. No? Yeah, system LED, then port status LED. LEDs, because for each port there is a LED. Port status LED. Also change during the switch post. ඒක අපි අර simulation environment එකේ කරද්දිත් පෙන්නනවා, right? Amber, green, you know. Port status turn amber for about 30 seconds as the switch discovers the network topology and search for loops. Two reasons. What are those? These are the reasons. During that first 30 seconds, network, it search for network topology and loops. ඒ කියන්නේ topology එක හරියට දැනගන්න ඕනේ, loop නැතුව තියාගන්නත් ඕනේ. ඒක පළවෙනි 30 seconds වල කරනවා. So during such time, status is what? Amber. Status is amber. If the port status LEDs turn green, the switch has established a link between the port and the target, such as a computer. That means the link in between the two ends are established properly. It can be in between two computers, even computer and switch, or in between two switches, right? sorry, in between two computers will not work because this is all about the switchlets. Uh, in between computer and switch or in between two switches because port status are there for each port. Port status LEDs are there for each port. So those will give that either green or amber indication. If the port status LEDs turn off, the switch has determined that nothing is plugged into the port. Right? Turn off namakadne, nothing is connected. Of green and amber. Of green and amber are the three different status that port status LEDs are ports status LEDs are described, right? They are describing or they are illustrating three different stages. Viewing that part is done, right? Viewing initial boot up output from the switch. Viewing initial boot up output from the switch. Okay. So the once switch is booting up, we can see the output. Yeah, it is even simulation environment. We can find it. Switch boot up output. In order to configure or check the status of the switch, connect a computer to switch in order to establish the communication session. Use the rollover cable or that means the console cable to connect the console port on the back of the switch to COM port on the to COM port on the back of the computer. Anyway, it is the way to connect the console cable. So now we are going to, because during the boot up process we cannot see anything, but if we just consider the simulation environment, Cisco, I think everyone aware about that, but I will just show sake of completion. This is the boot up process. This one actually during actual switch is booting up, we can't see that unless we connect the computer like this. Computer connect to the switch over console cable. That is the process that particular statement describing. Sorry, wrong one. I should connect with the console port, not the Ethernet port. Sorry. I have to pick the console cable. This an RS232. Right? This is the way we connect. Then we open up the computer. That part from through the desktop. I think terminal. This is the way we can access the switch remotely. Now actually, now I am the computer. Even from here, I can configure the switch. Right? So I will restart the switch then. Make a pen another restart current. Restart option එක දෙන්න වේද? Modules වල නැත්තම් පෙන්නනනේ. How we can restart switch? Here actually usually it is showing, anyone knows that?
ෆිසිකල් ටැබ් එකේ සර් zoom in කරපුවාම කොළ පාට ලයිට් එකක් තියෙන තැනක් වගේ තියෙනවා.
Zoom in කරන්න බෑනේ මේක ඊට වැඩි.
ඔතන ඔය තියෙන විදිහට
zoom in කියලා button එකේ. Yeah, there should be a button here, no?
yes.
In this one actually that option is not provided, I guess. Anyway, in that case, there is a command command to do that, no? In the enable mode, what is the command?
Reload.
Reload. I go to the access the switch and enter the reload. Now it is confirming. Now I can look into that status from here. Now I'm in the laptop. So for the actual switches, this is the way we can see the boot up process. Switch is booting up. These specific informations are very important. But at this stage, we are not focusing all of those. But remember that all are important. Otherwise, they should not be displayed here. One known thing is the MAC address, right? That everyone knows. Every device has the MAC address. That thing is displayed here. So if someone has the issue with the switch, troubleshooting the switch, they just bring the laptop and console cable to the work service station and troubleshoot the switch in this way, connecting through the console cable. That part is describing here in the slide. Use the rollover cable to connect the console port on the back of the switch to the COM port of the back of the computer, right? That is the way to connect. This part we already done. Rollover cable means console cable. We just connect it. Then we can look into the whatever the switch operation. You can even do the switch configuration. I think this is the way to establish the connection. It is possible. Connection must first be named when you initially configure hyperterminal communication with the switch, whatever. Comport to which switch connected, pull down the menu, and these are very minor thing that you can do actually when you are connecting. Examine the bootloader outputs. These are the bootloader output. The output shows the information about the switch, details about the post status, and the data about the switch hardware. Right? Information about the switch, detail about the post status, and the data about the switch hardware. Where the post status is located. Bootloader version, right? Bootloader version, maintenance in terms of interim software, starting MAC address, system X modem, file system is available, initializing flash. Now looking for the operating system. Flash in the flash 162 file, 3 directories. This number of files but 0 files. Total size, byte used, byte available, flash, fs, whatever the seconds took. Boot server file system, this one. Parameter block file system, pb install, fs id, sorry. Whatever the detailed informations are there, but I cannot exactly find where the post status is available. Anyone can find that is particular line, like post pass or something in our මේක බලමු post එකේ status තියනවාද කියන එහෙනම් pass fail කියලා stage එක ගන්නන්නේ නැහැ මං හිතන්නේ වට මේ වගේ මොකක් හරි වෙන්න ඇති pass fail කියන දැන් මේක අර fail වුණා නම් started කියලා වැටෙන්නේ නැති වෙයි එහෙම දෙයක් ඇතිනේ other than that not sure right once it is done only these informations are available so this one give implicit meaning explicitly post pass the kila kiyanne but implicitly once these informations are available post status should be passed something like that right තව තියෙනවානේ right here it is C2950 post system board test pass. Ethernet controller test passed. But in this one, 2950, I don't know about that, but this one is it not displayed. This also 2950. Make a pen and might be due to the simulation environment. Any idea? We'll check with some other switch. Yeah, but in the simulation environment, that one is not displayed, but in the lecture slides, I think that might be from some other sources. It says C2950 system board test pass. C first Ethernet controller test pass. MII test pass. Whatever the test are pass. That information is explicitly provided in that case, right? So just think about that, because some cases it was not displayed, some other cases it is displayed, right? Hopefully with the physical switch it might be displayed, right? Even though simulation environment it is not there, physical environment it should be there as per this understand. After the switch has booted and completed the post, prompts for configuration dialog are presented. So whatever the system switch කියලා arrow එකක් නේ තියෙන්නේ, arrow head එකක් නේ තියෙන්නේ. That means it is ready for the system configuration. Then switch may be configured manually with or without assistance of the system configuration dialog. So there might be a way to assist through the system configuration dialog. However, we can just do the basic configuration with the use of typical commands in manual, right? So it is just a manual, or network admins are doing that part because there is no any other way to do actually. That means on the other hand, the manual configuration even very secure. It is secured with the passwords where no one can get into the different stages of the switches, like normal. What are the modes? User mode, privilege mode, configuration mode, and configuration interface mode. All these 4 stages are restricted to use in some cases with the use of the password. The system configuration dialog on the switch is simpler than that on the router. Yeah, it should be obvious. System configuration dialog on a switch is simpler than the router. Router is a layer 3 device which has many functionalities. So complexity is high, but with the switch, it is somewhat similar. Relatively similar, I would say like that. Relatively similar than router configuration. Right. Command line interface. Command line interface CLI for Cisco switches is very similar to the CLI for Cisco routers. Right? Command line interface for Cisco switches is very similar to the CLI for Cisco routers. No much different. Interface wise, there is no different. Hope you have that experience. Even with at least with simulation environment, you can get into the switch in the same way. The appearance only the different. The command eventually will be different, but the command line interface, there is no much different. Same way it will be operated. You can work in that way. The environment is similar to the switch environment. Help command is used by entering question mark. Once you enter the question mark, you can find all other relevant commands. In this case, these are the commands. But once we get into the enable mode and question mark, some extra command. Likewise, any context that you are in, you can put the command. Then you will be given the relevant command. Let's say configure terminal. Get into the configuration mode and question mark. There are different commands, right? Then get into the interface. Particular interface. Then enter the question mark. Whatever the command applicable in that scope. Likewise, at different scope, the number of commands we can use will be different. In that case, you have to make sure what would be the comfortable, maybe I would say you have to make sure that what will be the exactly related command to do some operation in that particular context. That means once you enter the question mark, you can find many commands are there. So to accomplish whatever the task within that scope, only these commands are available. So there are distinguished advantage with or distinguished purposes with those commands, right? When this command is entered at the system prompt, a list of commands available for the current command mode is displayed. අපි ඒකනේ දැන් කරලා බලුවා අර different four modes වලටම ගිහිල්ලා question mark එක ගහලා බලුවා මොකද වෙන්නේ කියලා. Move forward. It is also describing how to enter that help command. So you got some understand as I did that before. Examining help in the switch CLI, right? Examining help in the switch CLI. Help command is very flexible to obtain the list of commands that begin with the particular character sequence. Enter those characters followed immediately by the question mark. What is the meaning of that? That means once we get into the particular mode, you can find many commands. Then in some cases there may be huge list. But if you can remember that the particular command is starting from S, see how many commands is starting from S? You can put S and question mark. Right? Then those commands are listed. Shutdown, spanning tree, speed, listen, switch post. All these commands starting from S. Then if I put S, H and question mark, only shutdown will be appear. So it is about that. Whatever the initial characters you can put, at the end put the question mark. So the particular question command match the initial text with the available commands in that domain. Don't enter the space before the question mark. You should not enter the question mark before the command. So it is like this. SH මෙහෙම ගහන්න බෑ. එතකොට මොකද්ද ගන්නේ? SH space කියලා command එකක් තියෙනවද කියලා තමයි හොයන්නේ. Definitely you will not put like this. In that case, it just consider initially it's okay. But for example, C space term, it will not work. That is the idea. I think many of you familiar with this. If you have any doubt, please raise during the class. Then I may not feel sleep. Narihana katti. Chamika. Okay. this form of help is called the word help because it completes a word. It can help. Do not know they can. But I just go back now. I just discontinue with the session. Don't enter the space before the question mark. Okay. After that, this form of help is called word help because it completes a word. Okay. So word help. Word help mean we enter the part of the word, right? Part of the word. For example, I enter the C and question mark. Word help. It is not describing the command. It is not describing the command. Just describing the just introduce the command. Word command. Word for the command. Right? This is describing the command as well. It completes a word. Completes a word means this word represents the command. To list keywords or argument that are associated with a particular command, enter one or more words associated with the command, followed by the space and then a question mark. What it says, to list the keywords or arguments that are associated with a particular command, enter the one or more word associated with the command followed by the okay. That means once we enter the command, for example, no. No is the part of the command here. Make a no command එක no එක ගැහුවට පස්සේ ඊළඟට enter කරන්න තියෙන්නේ මොකක්ද කියලා දන්නේ නැත්තම් no space question mark. Then we can find out what are the commands that we can use with no. No එකත් එක්ක පාවිච්චි කරන්න පුළුවන් command මොනවද? Right? Okay, so I think you got that idea, right? With that, to list the keywords of the argument, to list keywords or arguments that are associated with the particular command. So particular command is the no. No කියන එක තමයි මම පාවිච්චි කරේ. ඒකත් එක්ක associate වෙන keyword හරි argument හරි මට no space question mark එක දැම්මාම ගන්න පුළුවන් වුණා. That's it. Then this form help is called the command syntax help. ඒ වගේ no space question mark දාලා ගන්න එක ඒක syntax help එකක් because it provides the applicable keywords or argument based on the partial command. No කියන එකෙන් පස්සේ අපිට ඊළඟ කෑල්ල දැනගන්න එක ඒ syntax help එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ. අරත් එක word help එක. මේක word help එක. අයි word එක දැනගන්න. Syntax help එකක් අනිත් එක. Right? So now we are getting into the different command modes. So we already discussed in the practical sessions, but I will brief about that again. Switch has several command modes. You should anyway, then we can continue for 3 hours. Otherwise, I feel guilty. මගේ වැඩ හින්දා ඔයාලගේ වැඩ අතපසු කරන්න සාමාන්‍යයෙන් I'm not willing to do so. So we can continue for 3 hours, at least 2.5 hours. We can continue, right? Okay, different modes. Switches have several command modes. The default mode is the user mode, user execution mode. Okay, user mode කියලා එක කියලාත් කියන user execution mode. User execution mode is recognized by its prompt, which ends greater than character. මේ greater than character එකෙන් තමයි ඒක represent කරන්නේ. Right? The commands available in the user execution mode, commands available in user execution mode are limited to those that මොන වගේ commands තියෙන user execution mode එකේ. Change terminal setting, perform basic test, display system information. Other than that, there is no any privileged stuff to do. Change terminalization, performance basic test, display system information. මේකෙම තේරෙනව නේද මොකුත් ලොකු දෙයක් කරන්න නැහැ කියලා. Use execution mode එකේදී just continue the some basic operation. Right? පාරම මේකට ආවද? Anyway, so I think flow of the slides, anyway, it's okay. Use execution, access method is the login. Then switch prompt displayed like this, switch greater than symbol. Then exit method, use the logout command. Use the logout command. Logout එක වැඩ කරනවද? Anyway, we'll try. Now we are in this user execution mode. බලමු login එක මම ගහලම නැහැ මේක ඕන වෙලාවම නැහැ. Sorry, logout එක ගන්න ඕනේ. මේකෙන් අයින් වෙන්නේ කොහොමද?
Control Shift F6.
Control Shift F6. නෑ control
shift එකත් එක්ක F6 ඔබලා බලන්න සර්. මට මතක හිටියනම්
Shift F6 වැඩ කරෙත් නෑ. Control Shift F6 වැඩ කරෙත් නෑ.
Control Shift නිකන් 6.
බලමු දැන් මම close කරලා දැම්මනේ බලමු දැන්. හරි. බලමු මේකේ log out ගහන්න ඕන log out. ඒක නේ ආමුත් තැනකට ගිහලා නතර වෙනා නේද? log out වීමක් වගේ වුණා නේ ඉතින්. We are not in that particular switch greater than symbol නේ. enter එකක් ගහපුවම එතෙන්ට ගියා. log out වලින් එළියට යනවා. We are not actually using this command. Now I exit from the use execution, but once I put enter command, I will get back to that. But actually, I think we can enter the password there. No, use execution error password set කරන්න ඕනේ. And at this stage, we have to enter the password. Anyway, then we will get into privilege execution mode. For that, we have to enter the enable command. This is actually in the exam papers as well. 4 different stages of the switch. මේවා නිකන් පුළුවන් කියලා වගේ හිතුණාට exam එකේදී ලියන්නේ නැහැ බහුතරේ. මම A එකක් B එකක් A B නම් දැකලා තියෙනවා A නම් කලාතුරකින් දැකලා තියෙන්නේ මේ credit 6ක module එක. ඒකින්ද at least මේ පාරවත් ඔය ඉන්න කට්ටිය එකතු වෙලා මොනවා හරි කරලා A එකක් B+ එකක්වත් දාගන්න හොඳේ.
මේ command ලියන්න එනවා සර්.
නෑ මං අහන්නේ 4 different modes මොනවද කියලා. ඉතින් මේ command නෙමෙයි.
හරි.
4 different mode කියලා අහපු දේවල් past papers වල තියෙනවා කියලා මං කියන්නේ. ඒක අදහස තියෙනවනේ කට්ටියට 4 different modes මොනවද කියලා. command නම් ලියන්න ඕනේ නැහැ ඉතින් නේද? command දුන්නොත් මොකද්ද purpose එක කියලා විස්තර කරන්න වගේ පුළුවන් නේ. Right. Then global configuration mode, that means getting into the configuration mode by using the configure terminal command. Configure terminal command will direct you for the configuration mode. Then interface configuration mode. Interface, in our case, mainly fast Ethernet, but here it considers interface serial 0. That means get into the serial interface for some configuration. In our case, interface fast Ethernet 0/1, 0/2 for the for getting into the port 1 and 2. So how to exit from those modes? First one, logout. Disable and exit or logout will work with the switch. Privilege mode, I usually use the exit because it is common for all three. Exit කියන එක මේ තුනටම common නේ. ඒකින්ද exit කියන එක මතක තියාගත්තා නම් හරි. Okay. Right. So these are the four different modes. Use execution. Once you enter the enable command, you will get into the privilege mode. Once you enter the configure terminal command in the privilege mode, you will get into the configuration mode. Then once you are here, you can enter the interface fast Ethernet 0/1. Then you will get into the what is that mode actually? Interface configuration mode. Then show commands. Show commands that are available in the user execution mode. So a different mode, different commands will be appeared, and then show version, show interface are the user execution mode related commands. Okay. Give the version information for software and hardware. Let's check. Right now I'm in the privilege mode. Then show another command එක ඕනේ වුණා. අපි මොනවාද වෙන තියෙන show command කියලා බලන්න. Show space question mark. There are many more things to show. Here we are focused about the show version. Right? It describe about the version. Version mean give the version information for software and hardware. Both software and hardware versions are appeared. Used to see exactly which module and software are in use. What is the use of the different modules? Then show interface, display the administrative and operational status of the switch port, packets in and out, and errors. Let's check it that. This is the port 1. 01 is down. I port 1 with Ragattime. Show interfaces the ඔක්කොම පේන්නන්න බෑ. බලමු command එකක් තියෙනවද ඒකට? Show interfaces. මොකද්ද?
Show interface brief කියලා ගෙවුවම ඔක්කොම interfaces ටික පෙන්නනවා.
brief
කියලා command එක නැහැ නේ interface brief වෙන්නේ. නැත්තම් ඒක වෙන mode එකකද?
සර් මේ port ටික දෙන්න ඕනේ අපි මොන port එකේ නම් මොන port එකේද කියලා. ඒකට පෙන්නන්න. So interface කියලා ගහලා port එකේ ID එක දුන්නා 0.9
range එක ඕනේද? show interface range.
සර් පොඩක් අපු ගන්නකො මේ අරක show මේ ports IP news බලන්න. show IP interface brief
interface range. මේක තමයි මට මතක් වුණේ. මොකද්ද?
show IP interface නේද බලන්න සර්
මට
show
ඕන කොහමද interface
IP interfaces
අපි දැන් ගහපු command එක මොකද්ද lecture note එකේ තිබ්බේ show interface කියලා. මේ show interface කියපු ගමන් අපිට එක interface එකයි ආවේ. So I am just looking for a command to display all the interfaces. It is very common command. But now I can remember.
show IP interfaces brief බලන්න IP interfaces brief S නෑ S නෑ සර් S අකුරේ නෑ interface එකේ
Okay. දැන් මේ වගේ fast ethernet 0/1 this one having this information for all those ports it should be appearing. This is also okay brief one. I was not aware about that when I completely forgot about that command anyway, but I wanted to have the similar to this for all the ports. Full details, how you get that. And now it is appearing here. Okay, that is the purpose of this command. Okay, these are actually we already did that with the show what are the all possible combination that we can use. This actually not for show command but for some other command at once you want. So important thing is you better practice with this for using by that time. ඒ වෙලාවට පාවිච්චි කරන්න මෙහෙම පාවිච්චි කරන්න පුළුවන් කියලා දැනගෙන ඉන්න ඒක හරියට වටිනවා. That's I'm also not remembering the command because always we use the practical guide or whatever the other guide which helps me to recall the commands. Usually it's difficult to remember the command, right? As far as you are frequently using the commands you can remember, otherwise it is not, it is very difficult to remember, right? So still if you cannot remember at the very beginning, don't worry too much, just continue with the process, right? Get familiar with that because you cannot skip that stage like me. At least first you have to be graduated, right? Till that remember the commands. So version is like this, very detailed informations are there, no? Even model number, motherboard revision number, switch command mode. Enable command is used to change from the execution mode to the privileged execution mode. Privileged execution mode is also recognized by its prompt, which ends in the pound sign character. Hyphen එකක් කියනවා, pound උත් කියනවලු, whatever the way, this symbol should be there then when you are in the privileged mode. Privileged execution mode command set includes those commands allow in user execution mode. User execution mode එකේ තිබ්බ ඔක්කොම command ටික අතන තියෙනවා, as well as configure command. In addition to that, there are some commands for configuration purpose. User execution එකේ තිබ්බ එක නැති වෙන්න හේතුව නැහැ privilege ආවා කියලා නේද? User execution mode එකේ තිබ්බේවා එහෙමම තියෙද්දි ඊට අමතරව configuration වලට අදාළ ටිකක් තව add වෙනවා. version, show running config, show interface status, show controllers, show post. Any question over this command? Just go through the commands and try to understand. If you have any question, just raise. Okay, then move forward. Configure command allow other command modes to be accessed. Obviously, it will allow some other command modes like interface configuration or some other specific thing, right? Because these modes are used to configure the switch access to privilege execution mode should be password protected to prevent unauthorized use. As far as we are using that one for configuration purpose, then it should be password protected. Otherwise, someone else can log into that mode and do all the configuration changes. So even though we put the passwords, there can be security threats allowing to access the switch by any means and change the configuration. So without putting the password, that thing is open to do for someone. So it is essential to make sure to put the password, then it is very difficult to get into the switch by third party. Because once someone access the switch, it will allow to access the entire network. So we should not allow to do so in any manner. If the system administrator has set a password, the system administrator has set a password, then users are prompted to enter the password before being granted access to the privilege execution mode. It is obvious, right? If someone system admin know whatever the privileged user set the password, no one else will be able to access the switch without entering the password. The password does not appear in the screen. Password does not appear on the screen and is case sensitive. Password is just ඒක අර character wise පෙන්වන්නෙත් නැහැ. ඒක මුකුත් පෙන්වන්නේ. So we have to make sure that everything is entered accordingly and it is case sensitive. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි නිකන් Google එකේ password එක ගත්තොත් characters 5 නම් dot 5ක් හරි පෙන්නනවානේ. මේක එහෙම පෙන්වන්නෙත් නැහැ. But we have to enter the password. That password is also case sensitive. Right. So shall we have around 5-minute break? We are continuing maybe 6:15. We will continue till that. Hi, කාලය විතර එනකන් continue කරනවා. Just have a break till 5:05. Thing by you guys, right? ළමයි 12 13 දෙනෙක් ඉන්නේ. උන් ටිකවත් හරියට හදාගන්න. මේ fail වෙන්නේ නැති වෙන්න වැටික් කරගන්න because be committed, right? Once whatever the things you are doing, be committed. Commit වෙලා වැඩේ කරන්න. ඇත්තටම මේ many of you guys are not doing that. That's why during the exam time they try to find out the lecture notes, whatever the things, try to study, but it is not enough. During the semester you have to work hard. Okay. Verifying the catalyst switch default configuration. What are the default configurations available, right? When powered up for the first time, a switch has default data in the running configuration file. When powered up for the first time, a switch has default data in the running configuration file. ඇත්තටම තියෙන්නේ කොහෙද? startup එකේ තියෙන startup එකෙන් running එකට ගන්නේ default configuration ටික. Yeah. So you remember now we discussed it thoroughly. Startup configuration file is in the hard disk or permanent memory or non-volatile memory. Then once switch is startup, running configuration file is created based on the startup configuration file. Startup configuration file එකෙන් තමයි running එක හදාගන්නේ. Then it use the running configuration file for entire process. If you do changes with the running configuration file, you have to save it to move whatever the configuration to the startup configuration. Right? So that's how it is start. To start the switch needs startup configuration file or running running configuration file, right? And operating system, right? Those two things are required. Default host name is switch. You experience that we made it changes as S2. No passwords are set on the console or virtual terminal. No password sets at the beginning. Actually, you can verify that, no? How you verify that? කොහෙන්ද verify කරන්නේ? කොහෙන්ද නම් verify කරන්නේ? මේවා හරිද කියලා? මේවා හරිද කියලා verify කරන්නේ ගිහිල්ලා switch එකට ගිහින්
check කරලා බලන්න.
enable ගහලා show running config. running config එකේ තියනවාද කියලා බලන්න තියෙන්නේ. වෙන මොකුත් කරන්න නැහැ. උඩ පනින්න මොකුත් දඟලන්න දෙයක් නැහැ. show running config එකේ ගාව ගාව බඩු have host name එක switch. එතකොට VTY password are not set. මෙතන VTY password set වුණා නම් මෙතෙන්ට set වෙන්න ඕනේ. දැන්ට login normal විදියට තියෙන්නේ password නැතුව. console එකටත් no password. VLAN 1 එක shutdown mode එකේ තියෙන්නේ. start කරලා නැහැ. IP දීලා නැහැ. මේක තමයි default configuration. fast ethernet ඔක්කොම just there but no configuration and even switchboard mode access is not there. This is actual default configuration. Nothing other than that. වෙන මොනවත් නෙවෙයි.
සර් එහෙනවද?
ඔව්.
මේ සර් මේ ස්විච් එකට IP එකක් දෙනවා සාමාන්‍ය ලේටෝ එකට.
ඔව් VLAN එකට VLAN එක enable කරන්න IP එකක් දෙනවා. VLAN එක ASCII තියෙන IP එක. VLAN capable switch කියලා තියෙනවා. VLAN capable switch. We are creating the VLAN. So in that case, administrator VLAN will get the IP. Okay, no password, whatever things we verified. We verified all these by looking at the running configuration file in the switch at the very beginning without doing any configuration. Okay. මෙතනත් කියලා තියෙන ඒ කතාවම තමයි. Right? We already looked into this. Switch may be given IP address. මේ තියෙන කවුද ප්‍රශ්නේ තරින්ද නේද? Management purpose. Management VLAN. We need the IP. This is configured on the virtual interface. This is configured on the virtual interface VLAN 1. VLAN 1 කියන්නේ වෙන මොනවටවත් VLAN කඩන්න පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක administrative VLAN එක. වෙන මොන VLAN එක හැදුවත් VLAN 1 එහෙමම තියෙනවා. So by default the switch has no IP address. There is no purpose to assign the IP address as far as VLAN is not used. The switch port or interface are set to auto mode by default. Auto duplex, that means half duplex the full duplex the කියලා auto තමයි මේව කරගන්නේ. auto speed කියන්නේ අර port දෙක ගහනවා දැන් ethernet cable එක දෙපැත්තේ connect කරපුවාම එක්කෝ computer ethernet card එකේ speed එක හරි switch එකේ ethernet card එක හරහා support කරන speed එක හරි අනුව මේක negotiate කරගන්න එපා මොන ස්පීඩ් එකද communicate කරන්න කියලා දෙන්නටම compatible වෙන ස්පීඩ් එක වෙන්න ඕනේ. අන්න ඒක ඒ විදි auto set කරගන්නවා auto speed configuration එකත් එක්ක it is the default configuration. Anything new here? Right, if you just pay close attention, you can understand many stuff there. These are about the default VLAN. Default VLAN is the VLAN 1. It is the default VLAN. All the ports are belongs to that VLAN at the very beginning. But as required, you can create your own VLAN 10, 20, 30 and assign the ports one by one to that VLAN. So we supposed to do that practical maybe next Thursday we can do that. And this one, those are actually for some other purposes, FDDI, token ring, FDDI net, Trenet, actually those are not generally used. No much idea about that. So those are actually different type of the network, right? Token ring network, you know. In that case, those VLAN ID should be used. Anyway, if you want to accommodate users over the VLANs, you have to create the VLAN in between. There is actually specific range for that. Can anyone remember that? VLAN IDs specific and range එක 200 bit 8ද? bit 8ක්ද තියෙන VLAN ID එකට? I cannot exactly remember. Depending on the number of bits allocated to specify the VLAN ID, it has a specific length. VLAN එකේ number එක අපිට ඕන number එකක් වෙනකන් යන්න බෑ නේද?
VLAN එකට යන්න පුළුවන් නේ මට නම කියන්න
unlimited නෑ මම හිතුවා 255 වගේ වෙන්න ඕනේ 8 bit නම් මට මතක විදියට 8 bit වෙන්න ඕනේ. Anyway, let's move forward now. It is not much important. Usual people are using 10, 20, 30 in like that, right? Verifying the catalyst switch default configuration. Verifying the catalyst switch default configuration. Same topic. So VLAN 1 is known as default management VLAN, and the flash directory by default has the file that contain the iOS image. Flash එකේ තමයි තියෙන iOS එක. File called envvars. Yeah, how to get into that particular location? How to get into the flash? Still, I'm also not sure. That's why I think I have put anyway. Shall we search about that?
Hello sir, ඇහෙනවද?
Oh,
සර් මේ මම ඉස්සෙල්ලා සර් අහුන්නේ නැත. මේ සර් කැටලිස්ට් කියන්නේ මේ ස්විච් සීරීස් එකේ නමද සර්?
Catalyst කියන්නේ switch series එකේ නම නේද? මාත් ඒක ඇත්ත ලොකුවට හිතලා නැහැ. Catalyst switch අනම්මන කියලා තමයි මේ set එකට කියන්නේ. ඒක මට ඇහුන්නේ කලින්ම ඇහුවෙන එක කාටවත් ඇහුන්නේ නැහැ නේද? මේ Catalyst 35960 3560 Catalyst. තොනම් ගහලා බලමු I think. show file system. මේක බලන්න show file system ගන්න. ඒ show file එක වදින්නේ නැති.
සර් මේ ස්විච් සීරි මේ වර්ගය අනුව වෙනස් වෙනවද දන්නේ? අර සර් එකේ තියෙන්නේ
3560 නේ මේක. ඔය තියෙන flash එක. මේකට නිකන් access කරන්නේ කොහොමද? Show file systems will not work in that particular switch as Tarinda mentioned. So ENV VARS, is that the file system එකට flash එකට යන්නේ නැත්නම් ඒ file එක බලන්න බෑනේ. මෙහෙම බලමු. show flash env underscore bars ප්‍රශ්න තමයි ඉතින් මේවා ළමයි ඒවා හොයන්න ඕනේ විසඳන්න. show file show not sure. Do you know how to access the flash to check the file? While I'm going through that, I realized that how to access that one, but I couldn't find, I guess. I cannot remember anyway now. If you have the access to the flash, තනින්ද WhatsApp එකක් දාලා තියෙනවා මේක ගැන. flash එක access කරන විදිය ගැන. එතකොට අපි WhatsApp එකෙන් හරි verify කරගමු නැත්නම් we don't have that any clue නේ. Usually I'm writing down, but it is also not working properly sometimes. Put a WhatsApp, then we can follow it up accordingly. Flash එකේ ඇත්තටම ඇතුළට ගිහිල්ලා මේක just list කරගන්න තියෙනවා නම් මේක verify කරගන්න තියෙනවා කොහොමද ඒ කියලා දැනගන්න එක much better. I will look into that. After configuring the switch, it may contain the config.txt file and the VLAN database. Config text and VLAN database. There are two things. VLAN database is common. Config test, other than running configuration file, I am not sure about that, but we will go forward and see. Okay, මේක එතන කියන ඊට කලින් පස්සට යනකොට පොඩ්ඩක්. මෙතෙන්දී after the configuration sheet, it may contain, actually this should be the running configuration, right? There is no any other text file. Either startup or running configuration file. And the VLAN database file, it is there. So those two files are there, right? Then flash directory has no VLAN database file, VLAN that, and shows no saved configuration file, config test. ඒවා තියෙන්නේ කොහෙද එන? flash එකේ නෙමෙයි nvram එකේ, right? nvram එකේ. show flash dir flash බලමුනේ. So even that one will not help us to get into. dir command is not working in this particular switch, but those will work with the actual switches. This is all about the iOS version. If you want to clarify about the version in general, we are not too much worrying about the version, but actual industrial level version will be significant, because to check the compatibility in between the other switches or some other specific considerations, but so you should have idea how to check with that. Otherwise actually you can update that flash again. OS එකේම තියෙන whatever the memory, whatever things required thing can be upgraded. Verifying the catalyst switch default configuration. In this default state, the switch has one broadcast domain and can be managed or configured through the console port using the CLI. Okay, as far as online the one broadcast domain, those things console cable can understand. Can broadcast domain එකේ තියෙනවා නම් විතරයි කරන්න පුළුවන්. Not beyond that, right? So a console cable will help to do whatever the configuration. Then it says spanning tree protocol is also enabled and allow the bridge to construct a loop-free topology across the extended LAN. We discussed that part also. Circular paths are not physically, logically available, right? They are physically available, but they are not logically available. At some end, ports will be blocked. For small networks, the default configuration may sufficient. So in our case also, this question I still couldn't sort out. That's the problem anyway. Small networks, the default configuration may sufficient. So whatever the default configurations are okay for the small networks, for example, the network in the home environment might be okay. Passwords, even passwords are not required. VLAN, no need to implement VLAN. No need to worry about the port security or VLAN security. Different modes of the switch related security. No need to worry about that. But in some cases, industrial level, we should worry too much about that default configuration, because people actually, they just purchase the switch and use, but they are not even set the password properly. That means even default passwords are there, they are not setting the resetting the password. Okay, SLT ලාගේ වෙනව නේද? දැන් නම් වෙන්නේ SLT ලා දැන් නම් password එකක් අහලා දාලා දිලේ නැත්නම් ඉස්සර default password එක දීලා ගියපම අල්ලපු ගෙදර එකත් පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ අපේ SLT එක. Do you have such experience? I think during your time it was not happen. මං හිතන්නේ මොක උනේ 2000. I have actually personal experience, not for me, someone else. Around 2000, even 2008, 9, during that time. මොකද default password එක SLT ලා set කරලා දීලා යනවා. ඒක අල්ලපු ගෙදරට ඒක දන්නවා. ඒ කියන්නේ default password නේ. අරුන් අර password එකවත් reset කරගන්න නැහැ. Then they can use the, if the Wi-Fi access network is there, they can use the default password and access the nearby house SLT link. Now actually they reset the password and go. It is very bad practice. Right? ඒ වුණාට ඔය ෆෝන් වලට password දාගෙන ගෙවල් වල ඉන්න බෑ. මේ wife හරි girlfriend හරි boyfriend හරි password එක කියලා තමයි දාන්න වෙන්නේ. නේ? අපේ wife ට නම් password එක දැනගන්නම ඕන. ඒ මං කරන වැඩේ wife ගේ මගේ දෙකේම එකම password එක තමයි දාලා තියෙන්නේ දැන්. කිසි ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. ඈ ඒ ගෙවල් වල එහෙම ප්‍රශ්නකුත් තියෙනවා. Anyway, up to some extent you should be secure, right? Okay, then it says benefits of the better performance of the micro segmentations are obtained immediately. I think this micro segmentation is about introducing the different VLAN, right? It should be the micro segmentation. Benefits of the better performance with the micro segmentation obtained immediately. So other than that, actually we cannot introduce any segment with the switch. Anyway, looked into that, right? Looked into that. Then another lab activity, how to set that enable password. You know these things, huh? Anyone is not familiar with this? show startup, show interface VLAN, show IP interface VLAN. ඒක නම් not generally we are using, but we'll check. Show interface VLAN. ID එක ඕනේද? I think show IP interface VLAN. IP එකක් නැහැ නේ බලමු උන්ට ගහලා. VLAN is administratively down, line protocol is down, interface protocol processing is disabled. IP දාලා නැහැ. You know these commands: show version, show interface fast 330/4. I have already described what that 0/ thing අපි කතා කරන්නේ ඒක දවසක්. Default Ethernet card එකෙන් එන්නේ 0 කියලා. External card ගහද්දි 1 2 3 කියලා add වෙන 0 කියන්නේ default එකට. Show VLAN, we use that. Show flash, show run start මේ මොකද? Sorry, copy run start මේ මොකද? Copy running configuration file to the startup configuration file. This is the way we save the running configuration file into the startup configuration file. One day I explained it using the Word document. Whatever the updated Word document is the running configuration file. Once it is saved, it goes to the hard disk. So just start refers to the startup configuration file, which is the copy in the hard disk. This is the copy in the running RAM. Copy in the RAM, copy in the hard disk. So copy in the RAM will be updated, but to reflect that in the permanent memory, you have to save it. So that is the instruction is this. Okay. Managing the MAC address table. Switch learn the MAC address of the PCs or workstation that are connected to their switch ports by examining the source address of the frame that are received on the port. So how it learned the MAC address? By examining source address of the incoming traffic. So port is there, port එකක් තියෙනවා කියලා හිතාගන්න. Port is connected with the cable. Port එකට cable එකක් ගහලා තියෙනවා කියලා හිතාගන්නවා. ඒ cable එක through port එකට මොකක් හරි traffic එකක් එනවනේ. එන traffic එකේ source MAC address එක තියෙනවනේ. අන්න ඒ source MAC address එක අදාළ port එකේ MAC address table එකට දාගන්න. Only by tracing the incoming traffic to the port, not the outgoing traffic. By tracing the incoming traffic to the port, it just find out the source MAC address. Right?
Sir.
Yeah.
Sir, එතකොට අපි හිතන්න ඔය port එකට hub එකක් connect කරලා තියෙනවා කියලා ඒ hub එකේ තව මෙහා පැත්තේ මේ computers ටිකක් දාන ඒ වගේ වෙලාවක මොකද?
ඒත් දැන් hub එකේ වුණාම එතකොට hub එකයි switch එකයි connect වෙලා තියෙනවා කියලා හිතන්න. එතකොට අර hub එක මොකක් හරි battery මොකක් හරි let's say port 1 වලට connect වෙලා තියෙන switch port 1 වලට අර hub එක connect වෙලා තියෙන hub එකට computer පහක් තියෙනවා. එතකොට අර port 1 වලට අදාළ MAC address පහක් තියෙනවා. අය අර පහේම traffic එක අතනින් එනවනේ incoming. ඕක වෙනවා අර මේ switch දෙකක් එකට connect වෙලා තියෙද්දි. switch දෙකක් එකට connect වෙලා තියෙද්දි මොකද්ද වෙන්නේ? In between two switches there is a one cable. It's like bridging two switches. So at one end, all the MAC address of the other end related MAC addresses will be there. තේරෙනවද කියන එක? දැන් computer එකක් එක port එකකට connect වුණොත් ඒ වෙලාවට ඒ computer එකේ port එක හරහා traffic එකක් යවන්න වෙලාව බලාගෙන ඉඳලා source MAC address එකකින් ඒක අප්ඩේට් කරගන්නවා. දැන් අර වගේ වෙලාවට ඔයා කියන වගේ hub එකක් කනෙක්ට් වෙලා තියෙන වෙලාවට එක කම්පියුටරයක් නෙමෙයි ඒ port එකකින් traffic එක යවන්නේ. කම්පියුටර් 5ක් විතර යනවා. එතකොට පහම තියාගන්නවා. පහම තියාගන්න පුළුවන් නම් නැත්තම් latest එක තියාගන්න. පහම තියාගන්න බැරි නම් it depends on the different version of the switch. It just keep latest one. අර තියෙන එකකින් අප්ඩේට් කරගන්න අලුත් එකට. නැත්තම් පහම තියාගන්න පුළුවන් නම් පහම තියාගන්න. Did you get the point?
yes sir
මොකද දැන් එකක් තියාගන්න විදිහට තියෙනවා නම් ස්විච් එකේ MAC address එක MAC address table එක. එතකොට එයා හිතන්නේ මට කනෙක්ට් වෙලා තියෙන එක කේබල් එකයි. එතකොට අර පහක් තියනවා කියවනේ. පහෙන් පළවෙනියා එවද්දි එයා හිතනවා දැන් මෙයා තමයි කනෙක්ට් වෙලා ඉන්නේ කියලා ඒක දාගන්නා MAC එක. දැන් ඊළඟට තුන්වෙනියා එවනවා කියලා හිතන්න. එතකොට තුන්වෙනියාගේ MAC එක අප්ඩේට් කරගන්නවා දැන් කලින් එක්කෙනා නෙමෙයි මට කනෙක්ට් වෙලා ඉන්නේ මෙයා තමයි කනෙක්ට් වෙලා ඉන්නේ කියලා. ඊට පස්සේ පහ එවනවා. පහ එවද්දි 3 අයින් කරලා 5 දාගන්න. ආයෙමත් 3 එවනවා. ඒතර 5 අයින් කරලා 3 දාගන්න. එහෙම අර පහ මාරුවෙන් මාරුවට දාගන්නවා වෙන්නත් පුළුවන් නැත්නම් පහම දාගෙන ඉන්නත් පුළුවන්. It depends on the specific switch. However, whatever the just switch, assume about the switch, think about the switch. Switch port 1. It is connected with one other device නේ. ඒකෙන් originate වෙන traffic එක ඒකෙන් එන original traffic එක switch port 1 එකට ඒක විතරයි ඒකේ source MAC address එක විතරයි consider කරන්නේ. ඒකේ source MAC address එක විතරයි consider කරන්නේ. තේරෙනවද කියන එක? ඒකේ source MAC address එක විතරයි consider කරන්නේ. destination MAC address ගණන් ගන්න අපි දන්නේ නැහැ නේ යවන්නේ කොහෙද කියලා. දැන් මම ලියුමක් යවනවා. මගේ source MAC address එක. මේකෙන් ලියුමින් කියන්න බෑ ඒක හොඳේ. just ignore it. Because it is different analogy නේ. data packet එකේ source MAC address එකකින් අපිට sure මේ කම්පියුටරෙන් තමයි මේක generate උනේ කියලා. ඒකින්ද අපි assume කරන මෙයා අපි justify කරගන්න මෙයා තමයි මේක generate කරේ කියලා ඒක update කරගන්න. So that is the story of updating the MAC address table. Actually for me to elaborate it more way, need to have very convenient way to explain. I will look into the YouTube video and share it with you.
Hello, and this is Sunny. Welcome back. Today my topic is how a switch dynamically builds source address table. In this video, I will talk about a general layer 2 switch, not including layer 3 or multi-layer switch. Here are some common features of a layer 2 switch.
Grammarly helps make your writing clear and concise, no matter where you are. Compose a cover.
Sends a frame to
Hello
B.
and welcome to
Only
Bootloader
is
Academy.
receiver B.
This is
can
part
get
3
the
in our
frame.
network basic
When node
tutorial
C
at
talks to
Bootloader Academy.
D,
If you
only
haven't
is
yet seen
receiver
the
D
other-
can hear. Communications on a local switched network become one-to-one conversations, and a switch gives every conversation a full bandwidth of the network. 2. A switch creates a broadcast domain. A broadcast domain is a switched local area network. Specifically, any node using 12Fs as a destination MAC address is broadcasting. Any other nodes in the same broadcast domain can hear the message. 3. A switch forwards frames based on MAC addresses, specifically based on source address table. What is a source address table? Source address table, or sometimes called MAC address
The source
table,
address
is
table කියන්නේ
used
MAC
on switches to
MAC එක
determine
ගන්න
where
source
to
එකෙන්
forward traffic on a switched line. We simply call it set table. How does a switch build and expand its set table dynamically? When a switch is first turned on, the switch copies the source MAC addresses and builds a table of all connected devices and their associated
You can hear now?
ports. This table is a source address table.
Yes, sir.
When computer A sends a frame to computer C, the switch would forward the frame to port 4 where the computer C is attached. The same is true when computer D sends a frame to computer B, the switch would forward the frame to port 3. Let's see how the switch expands the set table dynamically as new devices are added. Suppose two new computers, E and F, are plugged into port 8 and port 9 respectively. Notice that set table does not change. The reason is that a switch learns MAC address of a newly connected device only after the switch receives a frame from that new device. In other words, the switch does not
switch computers දෙයක් add කරපුවම මේක learn කරන්න මොන වෙලාවටද? Once switch receive data from those two new devices, during that time switch will update by looking at the source MAC address. Source MAC address එක බලාගෙන තමයි MAC address table එක develop කරන්න. ඇත්තට මේ source address table කියන එක much meaningful නේද? Usually we are telling MAC address table. I have heard about this term, but I forgot to mention you. But source address table is much more meaningful, right? Because always focus about the source address of the data traffic to introduce these addresses. Let's look into the way how the port 8 and port 9 will be updated with the MAC address. Focus on that.
Update is a set table until it receives a frame from a new device. Let's see an example. Suppose the computer E sends a frame to computer F. When the switch receives the frame, it checks source MAC address first. The switch does not see computer E's MAC address in the set table, then the switch updates the table by adding computer E's MAC address and associated port 8. Then the switch checks the destination MAC address, which is F's MAC address. And again, the switch does not see the F's MAC address in the table, and it has no idea of which port is connected to the computer F. How to find computer F? The best method is broadcasting. The switch broadcasts the frame to all other ports except port 8 because the broadcast cannot go back to the source. When computer F gets the broadcast message, it replies normally. When the switch gets the frame, it checks the source MAC address again and it does not see it in the set table. Then the switch updates the table by adding computer's F's MAC address and its associated port 9. In this way, the switch learns MAC address and its associated port of every transmitting device. With a set table at hand, a switch can improve its switching performance and network speed in general. In next several
Okay, that is the idea. Eventually, once that MAC address table is updated and network is settled, there is no any broadcast. All are unicast, computer to computer. So whatever the bandwidth available will be shared very nicely among the different communications. So bandwidth effectively increase. Okay. These learned MAC addresses are then recorded in the MAC address table or set table. Frames having destination MAC address that has been recorded in the table. Frames having the destination MAC address that has been recorded in the table can be switched out to the correct interface. Okay, once traffic come into the switch, Before forwarding, it just looked into the MAC address table where the particular destination MAC address is available, to which port that particular MAC address table is connected with. So by looking at that, just find out the particular exact port, maybe port 4, then forward the traffic to the port 4. අදාළ ආපු data traffic එකේ destination MAC address එකට අදාළ port එක හොයාගෙන හරියටම ඒ port එකට තමයි දාන්නේ. Right? Managing the MAC address table. Yeah, just continuing the same topic. To examine the address that switch has learned, enter the privilege execution mode, privilege execution command, show MAC address table. බලමු අපි එකේ මොකක්ද වෙන්නේ කියලා. computer එකවත් connect කරන්න වෙයි, ඒක දෙවනව කරන්නේ. command එක වැඩද කියලා බලමු. Yeah, command is working, so we will connect computers. You better do these things right. If you are not familiar, you better do these things. If you are familiar, you better help others, right? If you want a separate session, I will arrange it Thursday evening with the Zoom. Even Tuesday morning, you can do a session with the Zoom, right? අට host කරලා දීලා යන්න පුළුවන්.
අද මොනේද?
කට්ටිය මොකද effective නැද්ද වැඩේ?
අවුලක් නැද්ද? ඊළඟ සතියේ ඉස්සර ගන්න බෑ මේ දවස්වල වපුරනවනේ ඊළඟ සතිය දිහා තෙල් ගහනවා. එදත් මට එන්න බැරි වුණේ ඒකයි මේ අඟහරුවා
මේකේ මේ අප්ඩේට් වෙන්නේ නැහැ නේ. මොකද incoming traffic එක generate වෙන්නේ නැහැ. තේරෙනවද?
මේ ping එකක් ගහලා generate කරොත් මේ වෙනවනේ. මම කරලා තියෙනවා.
ඒකට තව computer එකක් ඕනේ.
නෑ සර් මේ ඒ කියන්නේ මොකුත් නැත් ඒක නැතුව එක PC එකක් දැම්මත් ඕකේ කොහොමද අඳුර ගන්න එක?
ඒත් incoming traffic ඔව් එතකොට traffic එක අපි කොහාටද communication එක හදන්නේ?
ඔව් සර්
මේකේ මෙහාට
මේ කියන්නේ reachable නෑ කියලා අපිට එනවනේ.
මේ කාටද pin එක ගහන්නේ? නිකන් pin එකක් ගහනවානේ.
නෑ ගහන්න එකක් නෑ නිකන් ping එකක්.
ගාමු කාලා බලමුකෝ.
නෑ සර් මේ PC එකේ command prompt එකේ
ඒක නෑ ළමයි. ping මේක type එක දාන්න විතර එකනේ. මෙයාට type එක ගන්නෑ. මෙයාට IP එකක් දාද්දි හරියයිද? දානම් බලමුකෝනේ. 192.168.1.2 192.168 මේ default gateway එක නම් ඕනේ නැහැ 25 දැන් ගත්තානේ IP එක දැම්මට පස්සේ ගත්තා එන්න එහෙම නේද උනේ
ඔව් සර්. සර් ඒක අර වෙන්නේ මේ අර මේ ආප් මැසේජ් එකක් දාලා බලන්න එහෙම නේද යන්නේ? ARP රික්වෙස්ට් එකක් දාලා.
ඔව් නේ ඔව් ආප් වලින් ඇඩ්මිනිස්ට්‍රේටිව් ට්‍රැෆික් එකක් ජෙනරේට් වෙනවනේ නේද?
ඔව් සර්.
ඔව් ආප් එකක් දාලා බලනවා මේක තියනවාද කියලා. එතකොට ඒ ට්‍රැෆික් එක යනවනේ එහා පැත්තට. එතකොට ඒකෙන් රිටර්න් එක හම්බ වෙනවා. හරි. Okay, good. Very good. Managing the MAC address table. Still continuing with that. Switch dynamically learns and maintain thousands of MAC address to to preserve memory and for optimal operation of the switch. Learn entries may be discarded from the MAC address table. Learn entries are discarded. Learn entries හැමතිස්සෙම තියාගෙන ඉන්න ඕනේ කියලා දෙයක් නැහැ. Switch learn the MAC address. After some time it will be discarded. For example, this will be actually at the moment this might be disappear again. තාම තියෙනවා. තව ටිකින් ගහලා බලමු ඒක නැති වෙයි. Right? After some time it just ignore. Assuming that this device will not communicate. Yeah.
ඒක නිසා විනාඩි 5ක් යනවා නේද?
Whatever we can set that time නේද? අපිට set කරන්න පුළුවන්.
ඔව් සර්.
timer එකක්. Alright. May be discarded from the MAC address table. Machines may have been removed from a port, turned off or moved to another port on the same switch or different switch. හරිනේ මැෂින් එක එහාට මෙහාට කරද්දි නැත්නම් වෙන මොන හරි කරද්දි දැන් තනක ඉස්සෙල්ලා port 1ට ගහලා තිබ්බා. ඊට පස්සේ හිටපු ගමන් අපි port 2 වලට ගලවලා ගැහුවා. ඒතර port 2 වලින් MAC address එක අප්ඩේට් වුණ ගමන් මේ මගේ laptop එකේ MAC එකෙන් අනිවාර්යෙන් port 1 දැනගන්න ඕන. මෙයා ගිහිල්ලා port 2 වලට connect කරා. එහෙනම් මම මේක අයින් කරන්න ඕනි කියලානේ. Correct? Port 1 වලට ගහලා තිබ්බ. My computer is originally connected to the port 1. Now I removed it from the port 1 and connected to the port 2. Then my MAC address table realized that now the particular device connected with the port 2 previously connected with the port 1. That is why the same MAC address is there with the port 1 and 2. Then just after that, just triggering that point, port 1 related MAC address is removed. That's it, no? Antima එක කිව්වේ නේද? Yeah, that one. This could cause confusion in the frame forwarding, right? Whatever the MAC address changes will be confuse the forwarding of the frame. For all these reasons, if no frames are seen with previously learned address, MAC address as entries automatically discarded, age out after 300 seconds. මේක තමයි විනාඩි 5 කතාව. By default, 300 seconds it will be discarded. Rather, sorry. Yeah. Now we are getting into the clear MAC address table. Rather than wait for dynamically entry to age out, the administrator has the option to use the privilege execution mode, clear MAC address table. Shall we try it? තාම තියෙනවා clear MAC address table. Clear වුණානේ. So we can, did you notice it? Previously MAC address was there. Now it is clear because I entered the command code clear MAC address table. Right? Those are very important command, right? Again, back to the managing the MAC address. MAC address entries that administrator has configured can also remove using this command. Using this command to clear the table entries ensures that invalid addresses are removed immediately, because it is possible to learn them again. No harm with clearing the MAC address table. However, if we have put the sticky thing, that means we can assign the MAC address for the particular port. Any other MAC address cannot be assigned to that port. In such situation, I'm not sure whether those things also will be removed. So we will check with that later when we have that sticky MAC address stuff. Configuring the static MAC address. ඒක ඊළඟ දවසේ කරමුද අපි එනම් මෙතන නවත්තමුද ටිකක් ඉති වගේනේ ඔයාලට ඇද්ද මදිද
අපිත් නම් අවුලක් නැහැ සර් ඕනෙලා
මට මහන්සි වගේ
ඇති
දෙකමාරක් විතර ඇද්දන්නේ අදට ඇති අපි ඊළඟ දවසේ ටිකක් වැඩිපුර කරමු so we will end for today, right?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, welcome. Bye.